Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are excited to bring to you the 23rd webinar of Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific, focusing on the very important topic of advancing evaluation for better governance in the Philippines. Before going to the webinar, I would like to inform you all that this session is being recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel and as well as on our website. If you have any concern, please feel free to reach out to us. We would also like to get to know you better. So please introduce yourself in the chat, sharing your name, the country you are joining from, and your organization. And also one quick icebreaker in one word, and if you would like to use an emoji, how does evaluation usually feel in governance process? Um, while you are doing that, I would like to share with you quick housekeeping rules. As I already shared, this session is being recorded, and we assume that by attending and participating, you give your consent for this to happen. Please keep your microphones muted when you're not speaking. We have a dedicated Q&A session at the end where we will take questions from the participants. You can switch on your cameras for better engagement. We have the chat box option. If you have question during the presentations, you can post the questions there. The speakers may respond directly in the chat, or we will take them at the end of the session. We'll be sharing with you a quick feedback form, and we will be very happy to get your feedback and suggestions. This session will be uploaded on our YouTube channel and other social media pages, including our website. And we will also be sharing the recording with all the registrants, including the PowerPoint slides and summary notes from the session. Um, the agenda for today's webinar look like this. We will start with setting of the context and welcome remarks from our steering committee member, Dr. Edward Vine. Then we will have presentations from our three keynote speakers, Mr. Jesse from the Department of Economy, Planning and Development, Mrs. Adele Campo from budget management from Department of Budget and Management, and Dr. Romulo from Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department. We will have around 10 to 15 minutes of discussion, and we will end the session around 11:15 a.m. Let me invite Dr. Edward Wine to set the context and share the welcome remarks for the webinar. Ed, over to you.
Okay. I will share my slides. And let me know you can see them.
Yes, we can see the slides.
Great, great. Let's see here. Okay. So, there. Energy Evaluation Asia Pacific, what we often refer to as EEAP, and we often refer to it as a community of practice specializing in energy evaluation across the Asia Pacific. And the presentations today talk about evaluation in general. Energy evaluation, of course, is included in that. So I know a number of people here who focus on energy evaluation. So keep that in mind when you listen to the presentations. So what do we know about EEAP? It's a nonprofit established in 2018. So we're in our 8th year. And it's modeled after similar organizations in the US, the one I was involved since 1983, and then the one in Europe since 2010. Our mission is to take a leadership role in expanding the practice of and capacity for objective evaluation in the energy efficiency and renewable energy programs and policy arena. And how do we do this? Well, first, we want to develop the resources and professional expertise to answer these complex questions regarding evaluation. What works, what doesn't, which actions pay off, and how can they be improved? And in the energy world, at least, and other areas as well, you have small scale actions. If they work, how do you scale them up to either a wider audience or a wider geographical area if it's in one, say, Manila, as one example. And then we foster the development of self-sustaining evaluation communities through workshops, conferences, webinars, and other web-based tools. Okay, let's see. So our focus and impact, we really strongly believe in collaboration, and you'll hear more of that from the presentations, dealing with diverse stakeholders, including governments, non-government organizations, NGOs, research and institutions, and industry partners. And it's data driven. And we really focus on good data analysis to inform the policymakers and the decisions that go on. And we do this again through capacity building initiatives, through training, workshops, knowledge sharing platforms, and so on. And we want to make sure that we prioritize post implementation monitoring of energy and evaluation of energy policies. We try to track the outcomes and impacts. We do have an organizational structure. We have a steering committee, a smaller group that meets monthly. And we have a larger group advisory committee that we seek advice and guidance. And we have a coordinator, and Nazir, who made the introduction, is our coordinator, fortunately. And I had to add something which I haven't added before, but my good friend and colleague Juha, uh, from formerly, he's no longer, but formerly the director of the Independent Evaluation Office at the Global Environment Facility. Recently, he has a Substack, and I asked permission. He said, fine, to quote him, and I'll repeat the quote. At a moment when societies face unprecedented technological environmental risk, the role of science has never been more critical. And from climate change to artificial intelligence, evidence-based decision making is indispensable. Evidence-based decision making. Yet public trust in science is eroding and political support for scientific institutions is weakening. This paradox threatens not only effective policymaking, but the long-term capacity of societies to anticipate, adapt, and innovate. And that's why we're in the evaluation field, to provide that evidence-based decision making. And why energy evaluations? Well, EEAP tries to contribute to the adoption and effective implementation of both energy efficiency, renewable energy policies across the region. And we know it's not just a technological solution. There's behavioral change that's needs to be included, and we try to foster that among all the different actors and raising awareness of that. And then it's just not how much energy you save, but there are other economic environmental benefits. And we want to make sure evaluators and the community, the policymakers, are aware of these economic environmental benefits. And I mentioned some of those, including climate change mitigation, enhancing air quality. And we do this through our communications and social media. I hope all of you have signed up, particularly sending a note to Nazir to sign up. It's also through LinkedIn, through Twitter. Um, we have a YouTube channel, and you hear more about that later. And we have our own website, energyevaluation.org. So I hope you participate after this webinar and learn more about what we've been doing and attend future webinars and possibly a conference coming up, but we're working on that. So today's webinar, here are the three presenters and where they're from, and we're going to go that in order. Jesse will go first, followed by Adele, then Romulo. I do want to mention now, and I'll probably mention at the end, we've already scheduled a second webinar for this year from an old friend, Peter DuPont, who many of you may know. He's based in Bangkok and has his company called Asia Clean Energy Partners, and has been active in the Philippines as well, in Manila through the Asia Development Bank and their conference that he probably has been participating since day one of that conference. And the title of their webinar is From Data Collection to Program Design, using surveys and interviews and AI to strengthen clean energy interventions. So I think that's the last one. I will stop sharing and I will introduce the first presenter if I can find yep, Jesse. As Nazir introduced him already from at the beginning there, Chief Economic Development Specialist, works in the Strategic Outcome Evaluation Division in the interim chief there, and the Central Evaluation Unit of the Monitoring and Evaluation staff in the Department of Economy, Planning and Development. And he has been around. He's well experienced. I won't say how old, but he's been involved in a lot of the activities he's going to talk about. We've already discussed, including the design, preparation, implementation, utilization of evaluation studies conducted by Dev for programs and projects. So I could go on, but I think I'll stop here. We do want to try to finish this at 7:15. I'm trying to hold people to 15-minute presentations. We'll see how that goes. So Jesse, let's see. I have stopped sharing. You can share your slides.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Let me share my screen.
Looks good.
Okay, okay. Can you see my screen? It's okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see your first slide.
Good. Okay, thank you. So again, good morning, everyone. I'm Jesse David from the monitoring and evaluation staff of the Department of Economy, Planning and Development. So basically, we do monitor and evaluate development projects of the government across sectors. You know, it is include whether in education, health, social protection, and even infrastructure, and including the energy projects. Um, Thank you for allowing us to present our revised National Evaluation Policy Framework for in this year's webinar on advancing evaluation for better governance in the Philippines. So basically, the revised NEPF is the policy framework that we use to conduct evaluations of programs and projects. It was issued in July 2015, and amendments were made in April 2025 this year due to the evolving governance priorities and challenges, the need to refine the scope of the guidelines to optimize resources, enhance accountability, and to better support evidence-based decision making in our processes. All right.
Click on this slide and
Okay.
see if it changes.
Yeah. Okay.
Here.
So before we go directly to the details of the policy framework, allow me to present some slides, to provide some context on the importance of the policy framework in our efforts to really promote and strengthen our evaluation capacities. Basically, the government implements a results-based approach in its public sector management. The public sector management integrates planning, budgeting, implementation, monitoring and evaluation into an integrated process, and for them not to work in silos. Um, monitoring evaluation closes the loop by providing information or feedback, providing feedback to planning, budget, and implementation. So best practices and lessons learned in the conduct of monitoring evaluation are efficiently used in terms of improving our planning, budgeting, and implementation processes. Uh, Yeah, so M&E is a critical component of our public sector management, efficiency and effectiveness, to promote efficiency and effectiveness in the service delivery. And as we are all aware, M&E monitoring evaluation are two different functions, no, distinct functions, but they are complementary. Monitoring focuses on tracking utilization of inputs, the resources, the timely completion of the activities, and timely delivery of the outputs. Monitoring answers the question, are we doing things right? Or are we implementing programs and projects efficiently based on the agreed scope, based on the agreed time, and based on the approved design of the project? On the other hand, evaluation deals with outcome and impacts as we look at program and project effectiveness. No, evaluation answers a question: are we doing the right things? Are this the set of projects that will lead us to the desired intervention or to the desired outcome, or change that we want? So So why M&A matters for us? M&A is important as it drives accountability and transparency in our service delivery. It provides evidence for better policies, programs, and budgets, and it provides evidence to support policies now, or to scale up a program or to change existing ones. It builds trust that government resources, which people, and deliver results. Yeah, so our aiming activities are very much anchored on the results framework, which key components consist of inputs, activities, output, outcomes, and impacts, which follows a causal relation or causal pathways from the inputs up to the intended outcome and impact of the project. So we monitor how good are we in terms of prioritizing our inputs. We monitor how efficient are we in terms of implementation of the activities. We monitor in terms of timely delivery of the expected outputs, and we evaluate in terms of assessing the attainment of the outcome and assessing the contribution of this intervention to the overall goal of the impact of the project. Equally important is monitoring all the risks or the factors external to the project, but will greatly affect our implementation if these risks occur or happen. So, for example, take the case of a secondary education program. We monitor the full utilization of this program in terms of obligations, in terms of this disbursement, and in terms of its target, no, financially. We track the activities. If these are implemented well, we monitor all the delivery of those outputs, the new curriculum, the learning resources, and school buildings as well. Then we assess if the outputs, when utilized by the beneficiaries or the students, have led to the improvement in their learning outcomes and contributed in terms of improving the quality of secondary education. And we do this in all the government parts, including infrastructure, energy, social protection as well. So again, looking at the results framework and alongside monitoring and evaluation, in most cases, the monitor activities that we do are centered on looking at inputs, activities, and outputs, while evaluation on that is looking on the higher level results, outcomes, and impacts. But why would we need to do evaluations? We have first in the case of the learning secondary education or improving learning outcome students now. We have implemented so many interventions, so many programs and projects in order to improve learning outcomes. But have we assessed of which interventions have really contributed in terms of really improving the learning outcomes students? In terms of efficiency, yeah, we do them. We know how much funds we use, how much school buildings have we delivered, how much textbooks have we procured. But in terms of the higher level results, have we able to assess of these programs and projects which of these are cost effective, which of these projects have really provided value for money and really contributed to the change that we want. Of course, we need to ensure that we have a good design or project design, and projects were implemented and have really delivered their outputs. But without the outputs, definitely we have no outcomes and impact to discuss to begin with. But good design and implementation may not always lead to the desired outcome and impact. Our theory to begin with maybe not is not the appropriate solution to the change that we envision, and we need evaluation to know that. However, a quick assessment of the existing M&E systems of the agencies, most of the M&E systems of the agencies are focused on monitoring and very few covers evaluation. Most of the are big M or monitoring and very low on evaluation. More on monitoring the progress implementation and the issues and facilitating issues encountered during project implementation, and and it's more on efficiency rather on effectiveness. Uh, the capacity of the agencies is strong on monitoring, but need more strengthening in terms of the evaluation aspect of it. Although some agencies have strong uh, evaluation capacities, like for example, the case of DOH, the SWD, and other social agencies. They are beginning to develop their guidelines on doing evaluations. So Uh, why is that? Because of these issues and challenges that we have identified. First is policy support, budget, capacity, institutional setup, and data availability systems. No, so in terms of policy support, there's a need to have an overarching policy that will mandate agencies to conduct evaluation. We need a policy framework and guidelines that will govern the conduct of evaluation across government, an evaluation agenda to release priority evaluation and that will support development plan implementation. Second is budget. We need to allocate budget to do evaluations and the capacity to do capacity building on evaluations. Much of the budget of programs or projects are intended for monitoring and less allocations on evaluation. Third is on capacity building. Level of capacities and evaluation varies across agencies. So some agencies have strong evaluation function, but some agencies have less, no, or weak evaluation capacities, especially at the local level. Institutional setup, some agencies have M&E units, but are doing more on monitoring and less on evaluation, and some are embedded in their planning units and not really doing monitoring and evaluation. Lastly is on data availability and systems. No, the we challenges in terms of available baseline data, challenges in terms of the availability of documents during the project appraisal or project design phase that limit us to do evaluation studies. So in terms of the lead policy support, the Republic Act 12145 or the Economy Planning Development Act reorganizes NEDA into the Department of Economy Planning and Development or DepDev. So the law mandates DepDev to lead planning, monitoring, evaluation functions for national and subnational levels, oversee governance conduct of evaluation studies, evaluate and report the impacts and outcomes of priority programs and projects, including those that need to be retrenched or modified. It also mandates NEDA to formulate a national evaluation agenda with a rolling agenda of priority programs and projects for evaluation, and oversees and mandates agencies to align programs and with their evaluation findings. So within the ambit of the RA 12145 or the Act, the revised National Evaluation Policy Framework was formulated to guide agencies in the conduct of their evaluation studies. So alongside with the other complementary M&E systems that we have that are being used to facilitate implementation and project monitoring, Together with these existing M&E systems, these M&E systems are carried out to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in the implementation of, of development programs and projects. However, we would like to note that the NVPF was first issued in 2015 and was built on the momentum of previous reform initiatives related to resource-based management or government, and to serve as a framework to govern the practice of evaluation in the public sector. But it has to be revisited 10 years after its issuance, and the revision was driven by, by these several factors. First is addressing implementation gaps. We learned valuable lessons from implementing the 2015 policy, from the 2015 policy, and there's a need to address gaps that were revealed during implementation. Second is adapting to the new priorities. Our country's governance challenges are constantly evolving, and the framework need to adapt to remain relevant and responsive. Third is mandating evidence. There was a clear need to make the systematic generation of evidence explicit and required, and not just an option. And fourth, the ultimate goal to make M&E efforts smarter and more effective by refining our processes, our scope, optimizing resources, enhancing accountability, and strengthening our commitment to evidence-based decision making.
You have a couple minutes left.
Okay. So the core purpose of the framework is first is to really truly institutionalize governance structure for public sector evaluation. Second is it aims to effectively guide the formulation of national evaluation agenda. And third, significantly develop a clear mandate for doing evaluations, no, in the government sector. Fourth, it intends to incorporate internationally recognized evaluation principles. So Section 3 provides defines the coverage of the framework, which includes all government agencies, SUCs, government controlled corporations, and government financial institutions. Section 5 highlights the development of the National Evaluation Agenda, which lists the priority programs and projects that need to be evaluated over our 6-year rolling period, and it's focused on doing impact evaluations, while it highlights also the development of the agency level evaluation agenda, which to ensure continuous improvement in the service delivery of the agencies, and this focuses mainly on doing process evaluations. However, the NEF steering committee can issue separate guidelines to guide the agencies in doing evaluation. Of course, in terms of the structure, we have the steering committee to provide overall policy direction, the technical committee to provide technical arm to the steering committee, and an NEPF secretariat to provide technical and admin support to those to the steering and technical committee. For the agencies, they need to establish and enhance evaluation units, formulate the development agendas, and conduct commission evaluations. So the framework has also some guiding principles and annexes that can be used by the agencies in doing their evaluations, like evaluation criteria, ensuring evaluation competencies, how to ensure rigor and robustness, how to ensure that ethical standards are observed in doing evaluations, what are the best practices in evaluation, and how to ensure impartiality in terms of doing evaluations. In last section is doing effective reporting, dissemination, and use of evaluation findings. So these are some of the criteria that you use in doing evaluation: relevance, coherence, effectiveness, efficiency, impact, and sustainability. In terms of the utilization evaluations, there's a section on how to better communicate evaluation results, how to formulate management responses in all recommendations of the studies, and how to better link planning and budgeting in our evaluation processes. So in terms of the actions moving forward for the government agencies, they need to familiarize themselves in terms of the revised framework. They need to establish their own independent evaluation units that is focused on doing evaluations. They need to develop their agency level evaluation agendas and allocate resources in doing evaluations. For the oversight agencies that given OP, they need to operationalize or implement the revised NEPF, develop and supporting guidelines and protocols, and lead capacity development initiatives in the government. So let me just quickly share
We,
our
we need to
evaluation
end up,
initiatives. No,
Jesse.
are we ready to
Uh,
that now?
we
Okay,
need to
sige.
end up.
Yes. Okay, so our evaluation efforts are focused on building confidence and competence in establishing strengthening capacities on evaluation, fostering community practice, and creating knowledge. So these are just some of our accomplishments. And in terms of the voice forward, we'll continue to create evaluation champions capable of leading evaluation in the government. We will continue to strengthen agencies to have robust evidence systems and capacity to conduct evaluation of programs and projects. We need to establish group of professionals strengthened to take on the increased demand on evaluations. And we need to ensure that strategic evaluations can inform our planning and budgeting processes. And of course, the use of evidence information to strengthen accountability in our service delivery. So on a last note, we will work together at the national, regional, and local level to make evidence central to our decision making and to ensure delivery of better results for our people. I think that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I should note that all the slides will be available. So I know we had to run through the last few slides, but when we make the recording available, the presentation slides will also be made available, assuming the presenters are fine with that. And we check in with them doing that. So thank you. We really interesting work going on. I have lots of questions, but I think rather than have me ask questions, let's save the questions for the end. We have saved time for that. And also we've used the chat function. So anybody can go to the chat button and ask your question. We'll try to address them at the end as well. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Let's go on to our next speaker, Adele Ocampo. And Adele can start putting her slides on the screen. And I'll introduce her. She's a senior public sector professional with, again, over 30 years of experience in government service and over a decade specializing in monitoring and evaluation. She's in the Department of Budget and Management at the Philippines, and she serves as the chief budget management specialist there, where she leads a number of the budget reform initiatives and supports this national evaluation policy framework. So without, again, further ado, I'll hand it over to Adele.
Morning,
We can see,
everyone. Can you see
yep,
my slides?
we can see your slides and we can hear you. Two important things.
So, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to engage with evaluation practitioners who are at the front lines of producing, translating, and defending evidence in policy spaces. From the perspective of the Department of Budget and Management, this conversation is both timely and necessary. While DBM
Adele, sorry, but your volume went down. Can you increase your volume on your end?
again,
Or, or get closer.
Yeah,
sorry.
maybe you can just bring the microphone closer here if it is.
So, from the perspective of the Department of Budget and Management, this
Very good.
conversation is both timely and necessary. While DBM is often associated with budgets and fiscal rules, our work is deeply dependent on the quality, credibility, and usability of evaluation evidence. The budget is the government's most powerful policy instrument, but it is only as strong as the evidence that informs it. Today, allow me to share the DBM's perspective on how evaluation fits into public financial management, what we have learned from the past reforms, and where we see concrete opportunities for evaluators to influence budgeting and development outcomes. So to anchor this discussion, let me start with an analogy that resonates strongly with systems thinkers and evaluators alike. So we can think of public financial management, or PFM, as the government's pipeline for delivering public services. The water flowing through the pipeline represents government's resources or funds, while the pipes and valves represents the design of our PFM systems, how public funds are allocated, controlled, and managed. Together, these determine the flow of resources and the continuity of PFM operations, ensuring the efficient movement of public funds. When this pipeline is well designed and well maintained, resources flow efficiently to programs that improve lives. But when the pipeline is weak, poorly connected, or leaking, even large volumes of funding fail to translate into meaningful outcomes. To understand how to keep this pipeline working, we need to look at what it is made of. PFM is composed of interdependent elements that include planning, budgeting, cash management, procurement, accounting, audit, reporting and review, as well as resource generation for both revenues and borrowings, and of course, expenditure management. The quality of PFM performance depends on how these elements interact and how stakeholders collaborate to meet public service goals. This is why reforms in isolation often fail. Strengthening one segment of the pipeline while ignoring others only shifts bottlenecks elsewhere. This brings us to the role of monitoring and evaluation. If PFM is the pipeline, monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, is the regular inspection and maintenance system, or the meter reader that enables the government to make informed decisions as it implements programs and projects. This is why evaluation evidence is a critical part of the PFM cycle. In principle, results and evidence from M&E are critical at all stages of the PFM cycle. Evaluation findings inform planning and priority setting by improving the design and targeting of future programs and projects, both at the level of the agency and the whole of government. During budget preparation, evaluation supports the DBM's review of ongoing and new or expanded proposals, helping determine whether programs should continue, be scaled up, redesigned, or discontinued. Evaluation evidence also supports Congress during budget legislation as it exercises its power of the purse. During budget execution, M&E helps assess whether programs are being implemented properly and in a timely manner. Finally, the M&E function is found distinct in the fifth phase of reporting and verification, as it strengthens transparency and accountability. In DBM, this is the other side of its dual oversight role, the management mandate. While this is the ideal cycle, practice tells us a different story. Despite these entry points, we have yet to fully maximize M&E in the national and planning budgeting cycle with the following challenges. First, results-based principles are not fully integrated into planning, budgeting, and implementation processes. We do have a government-wide policy in the executive branch, but it needs to be updated. This is the results-based monitoring, evaluation, and reporting, or the RBMR policy issued by DBM in 2016 through National Budget Circular number 565. It describes the delineation of oversight M&E functions between the DBM and DepDev and also of implementing agencies. However, in the absence of oversight champions, especially in DBM, efforts to establish a whole of government M&E system remain a fragmented exercise with uneven progress across agencies. If I may share, during that time that zero-based budgeting studies were being commissioned by DBM some 10 to 15 years ago, situ electrification was one of the programs evaluated in cooperation with the National Electrification Administration and the Department of Energy, which in turn facilitated the crafting of policies to improve the program. As we have heard from Sir Jess, we look forward to the composition of the National Evaluation Agenda, as well as the agency level evaluation agendas. So the next, evaluation findings are not consistently used to influence policy decisions. Also, timing remains a major issue. When evaluation results become available, key budget decisions have often already been made. Gaps in baseline data still persist. Performance information and also rigorous monitoring systems, which weaken the quality of evaluation studies. And even when good evaluations exist, findings are not always communicated in ways that resonate with decision makers. From an evaluation practitioner standpoint, the Philippine experience with results-based management offers important lessons. We made progress in defining performance indicators, strengthening reporting systems, and introducing tools such as performance-informed budgeting. Our experience has shown that the presence of indicators does not automatically lead to better decisions nor well-implemented programs and projects. Beyond these challenges, M&E in the Philippines face persistent institutional and capacity challenges at both the national and local level. First, evaluation culture remains weak. In a recent study of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, it suggests that M&E receives the least priority at the LGU level, with only a little over a third of sampled municipalities claiming to have an M&E program. Second, institutional fragmentation persists in terms of overlapping mandates among oversight agencies like the DepDev, DBM, and COA, or the Commission on Audit, and implementing agencies, leading to duplication of data collection using different standards and timelines. Lastly, capacity gaps further compound the problem. There is a shortage of skilled M&E personnel, uneven technical competencies, and high staff turnover, making it difficult to sustain institutional memory and evaluation capacity. Moreover, the effective utilization of M&E evidence is further constrained by limited resources and the need for sustained training and technical assistance, both at the national and the local levels. To address these challenges, we need to strengthen the enabling environment for M&E function as a core government process, particularly by aligning evaluation timing with the budget cycle. Among the key initiatives we are pursuing include enhancing oversight for public expenditures through M&E under the Public Financial Management Reforms Roadmap 2024 to 2028. Next is the need to embed M&E culture through the issuance of the revised National Evaluation Policy Framework, as discussed by Sir Jess a while ago. Again, the third is integrating evaluation results through the agency performance review. And ensuring financial management in government is transparent, accurate, and linked to expected outcomes through the Integrated Financial Management Information System, or the IFMIS. On the first one, to enhance oversight for public expenditures, M&E is included as one of the 11 strategic focus areas in the PFM Reforms Roadmap 2024 to 2028, which was endorsed to the Philippine President in September 2024. This roadmap sets out the strategy to mainstream a culture of evidence-based decision-making across oversight and implementing agencies. We are currently at the tail end of recalibrating this roadmap to incorporate the results of the latest set of public expenditure and financial accountability assessments, or the PEFA assessment, which was launched mid last year. To operationalize this, the PFM committee, composed of the DBM as the chair, together with the Department of Finance, COA, and the Bureau of the Treasury as members, and DepDev and DICT as resource institutions, we have partnered with the NEPF Technical Committee, chaired by and co-chaired by the DepDev and DBM respectively. Among the interventions in this strategic focus area include a comprehensive review of the current institutions and mechanisms that support M&E practices, strengthening M&E function across the government, and enhancing mechanisms and tools to produce and use evaluation findings. This next one I will no longer discuss in lengthily because Sir Jess discussed this already, except by saying that when we crafted this joint memorandum circular together with DepDev, both in 2015 and now, we have aligned this policy with the existing DBM initiatives on M&E. This leads me to the enhanced agency performance review issued through a circular letter 2025-2 to all national government agencies in early 2025. This version of APR is more rigorous given the following: the participation of agencies in using the self-assessed financial and physical performance and the annual APR tools. It also introduces the mid-year performance dialogues with top 12 um, and lagging departments and the annual APR conference. It also adopts an APR scorecard designation of APR lead both at the central and counterpart regional or sub-agency levels. It also involves the three dimensions of performance, including financial, physical accomplishment, and timeliness of reports and quality of report submission, and the implementation of an annual recognition system. We're very excited of the implementation of this reform. The enhanced APR is a concrete example on how M&E evidence is already being integrated into DBM decision processes. The results of the fiscal year 2024 enhanced APR, besides being sent officially to agency heads, has been published as the Budget ng Bayan Monitor, which provides a comprehensive assessment of the performance of national government agencies, other executive offices, constitutional commissions, and state use. Findings from the FY 2024 APR were translated into concrete cross-cutting recommendations. These include the need to reassess the planning and execution of programs, activities, and projects to improve physical performance across the bureaucracy. The review also highlighted the importance of institutionalizing periodic reviews of physical targets, ideally on a 3-year cycle, to ensure that targets remain realistic, relevant, and aligned with evolving policy priorities. In addition, the APR pointed to the need to streamline internal systems and modernize operational processes, as well as undertake targeted capacity building initiatives so that staff competencies are better aligned with the agency's functional mandates. APR results are also utilized in DBCC, or the Development Budget Coordination Committee, and OBS, Open Budget Survey related documents, such as the mid-year and the annual fiscal reports.
Adele, you have a few minutes left.
Yes. Lastly, to strengthen the financial management system in the government, consistent with Executive Order number 29, series of 2023, and the E-Governance Act, the PFM Committee is on its pursuit to fully digitalize the PFM processes through the IFMIS, with the budget, treasury, and management system at its core. It will facilitate real-time online accounting, monitoring, and control of financial transactions to aid in the processing and consolidation of data for fiscal management and reporting. Ultimately, these initiatives aim to set the stage for an M&E culture that promotes transparency, accountability, and data-driven decision-making across the whole PFM cycle. Other institutional efforts have been conducted to address these gaps. So this includes the results-based monitoring and evaluation of LGU infrastructure projects by the DILG, and also the Digital Information and for Monitoring and Evaluation project, which was relaunched by DBM very recently. The project leverages on the use of technologies such as satellites, drones, and geotagging in monitoring and evaluation on the status, progress, and activities of big-ticket government projects. Taken together, these reforms point to a clear direction from strengthening evaluation policy and institutional arrangement to integrating evidence into budgeting processes and digital financial management systems. To sustain our country's public financial management pipeline in delivering public goods and services, its M&E system, the meter reader, should be robust to keep the pipeline strong, credible, and responsive, aligned with the PFM reforms and the Philippine Development Plan, the NEP-F, the Enhanced APR, and other M&E initiatives. It helps to ensure that scarce public resources are allocated not just efficiently, but effectively, guided by evidence, learnings, and accountability. As you can see, and with the recent problems on ghost projects, we have a lot of work ahead of us in this front. The DBM looks forward to continued collaboration in strengthening evaluation and evidence-based budgeting for better development outcomes for all Filipinos. Ito lang po. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. Again, as I mentioned at the end of the last presentation, you have questions, use the chat function, put in your questions, and we'll try to address them at the end. And again, we're packing in a lot for today. And so I'd like to then go to our third and last speaker, Romulo. You can add your slides in and share them. He's currently the Deputy Secretary General of the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department in the House of Representatives in the Philippines. And again, like the other presenters, lots of experience, nearly 3 decades with him. Most of it spent at the House of Representatives Secretariat. And he's been focusing on public expenditure management, national government budgeting, tax policy, and administration. And I think I'll stop here. I could go on as no surprise, all these presenters have a wealth of experience and great education. But I think for the sake of time, I'd like to hand it over to Romulo and we'll go with his slides.
Thank you, Ed, for the introduction and for the invitation. And a pleasant good morning to all the colleagues and friends from the Asia Pacific region. It's a pleasure to join this EEAP webinar on advancing evaluation for better governance in the Philippines. Again, I work at the House of Representatives Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department, providing research and technical assistance to our legislators and the various committees in their task of legislation and oversight. And in my work, in the work of the office, we recognize the importance of monitoring, evaluation research in particular, to guide legislation and legislative oversight. And we are one with our colleagues in the government to strengthen our system and the culture and practice of monitoring and evaluation. I will be asking the assistance of Nazir to navigate my presentation. Okay, next, this slide. Over the past several decades, the Philippines has made steady progress in integrating evaluation into the machinery of government reforms in planning, budgeting, and public financial management. The revised National Evaluation Policy Framework signals that evaluation is no longer peripheral, but is increasingly recognized as a core governance function. Yet, like many countries in our region, we face a familiar challenge. While monitoring and evaluation systems are in place, their influence on actual policy decisions, budget choices, and accountability remains limited. In my presentation today, I argue that advancing evaluation requires more than better tools or stronger rules. It requires broadening ownership and demand for evidence beyond the executive branch to parliament, civil society, academia, the private sector, and citizens. In other words, advancing evaluation for better governance requires a whole of society approach, one that transforms evaluation from a technical exercise into a shared governance responsibility. I hope that the Philippine experience can offer useful insight for our regional colleagues as we collectively work to strengthen evaluation system that truly informs decision and improve public outcomes. Next slide, please, Nazir. So again, as I mentioned, over the past decades, the Philippines has made sustained efforts to strengthen monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, as a foundation of good governance and accountability. Key oversight institutions, the NEDA, now the DEB, the Department of Budget and Management, the Department of Finance, and the Commission on Audit have led numerous reforms. These include the National Evaluation Policy Framework, the Results-Based Performance Management System, Performance-Informed-Based Budgeting, and Performance Audit, among others. Together, these initiatives reflect a growing recognition that good governance depends on sound evidence, result-based management, and accountability for public spending. However, as we confront complex and interconnected challenges such as poverty, inequality, climate change, and sustainable development goals, project-level monitoring alone is no longer sufficient. We must look beyond projects to evaluate policies, programs, and national development plans and adopt a systems approach to monitoring and evaluation. Within the system, attention must shift to the weakest link in the chain, actors who may have limited appreciation of monitoring and evaluation, yet wield significant influence over whether evidence actually drives accountability and learning. These include parliaments, civil society, organizations, and other non-state actors, the very institutions that shape demand for evidence and help keep government responsive. Next slide. So, as we can see, the consequences of weak M&E are evident in our everyday experience. We see flood control projects that fail to prevent flooding, farm-to-market roads that are poorly located or inadequately built, health facilities that remain incomplete or underutilized, and education programs that absorb large budget yet deliver low learning outcomes. These are not isolated cases. The symptoms of systemic weaknesses in monitoring and evaluation and accountability, the missing feedback loop in our governance system. The Public Financial Management Roadmap, as pointed out by our colleagues in the Department of Budget and Management, acknowledges this reality. While planning, budgeting, and procurement have improved, M&E, congressional oversight, and citizen engagement remain among the weakest links in the public financial management chain. Without robust monitoring and evaluation, public spending risks becoming a cycle of expenditure without learning and performance without accountability. Next slide. Two deep-seated issues explain why monitoring and evaluation remains underdeveloped: the gatekeeper mindset and fragmentation. The gatekeeper mindset confines M&E to a small group of oversight bodies. Reports are produced to comply with requirements rather than to learn from results. Data are collected but not shared, and evaluations are completed but rarely used to improve programs or guide budget decisions. Fragmentation compounds these problems. Agencies operate separate monitoring and evaluation systems with different indicators, data sources, and reporting formats. There is no integral national framework linking planning, budgeting, and implementation. Local governments, civil society, and academia often operate at the margins. Even Congress or the Parliament frequently conducts oversight without systematic evidence. The result is multiple systems with limited coordination and consequently limited learning and accountability. Next slide. The revised National Evaluation Policy Framework represents an important step in advancing evaluation in the Philippines, not merely as a technical exercise, but as a core function of governance. From a governance perspective, the framework is strong in its design and in intent. It anchors evaluation within the planning and budgeting cycle, establishes clear executive leadership, and emphasizes the credibility and use of evaluation findings. These elements are essential for strengthening accountability, improving policy coherence, and supporting evidence-informed decision-making. Its weaknesses, however, are primarily execution and governance challenges. Limited integration between monitoring and evaluation weakens feedback loops needed for timely learning and adaptive decision-making. Demand for evaluation remains concentrated within the executive branch, while the roles of Parliament, civil society, and the public in using evidence for oversight and accountability are not yet fully institutionalized. Moreover, the absence of legislative backing makes the framework vulnerable to leadership changes and capacity constraints as we have experienced in the past. Taken together, these strengths and weaknesses suggest that advancing national evaluation policy framework or monitoring and evaluation in general is less about redesign and more about consolidation, strengthening monitoring, evaluation, integration, expanding beyond the demand of the executive, and anchoring evaluation more firmly in oversight and accountability processes will allow evaluation to function as a true instrument of governance, supporting transparency, learning, and better public outcomes through a whole of society approach. Next slide. Next. Yes. To overcome these weaknesses, monitoring and evaluation must be transformed from a bureaucratic function into a shared societal responsibility, a collective enterprise involving all sectors of society. This is, in essence, a whole of society approach. Under this approach, government provides leadership, coordination, and transparency. Congress exercises informed oversight grounded in credible evidence. Civil society and the media act as accountability partners, amplifying citizen voices. Academia and think tanks contribute to independent research and analytical rigor. The private sector brings innovation, technology, and efficiency. And most importantly, citizens engage in monitoring and feedback, ensuring evaluation serves their priorities. So in the end, evaluation really is a shared public good. Next slide. A whole of society approach is not simply about inclusion. It is about redistributing power, information, and trust, ensuring that evidence is not controlled by a few, but shared by all. Institutionalizing this approach requires moving from isolated project reviews to national evaluation system that connects programs, budget, and outcomes across the development chains from input to impact. Next slide. A key challenge remains, particularly on our side. Many legislators and parliamentarians do not yet fully appreciate the role of monitoring and evaluation. Political incentives often favor short-term gains over long-term institutional reform. M&E may appear overly technical or even politically risky if it exposes inefficiencies. This challenge can be addressed by reframing M&E in political terms as a tool for oversight and credibility. M&E can help Congress ensure that every peso spent delivers real results for citizens. It strengthens legislative oversight, enhances public trust, and safeguards the integrity of the budget process. To be useful, M&E must also be accessible. This means providing concise briefs, dashboards, and narratives that translate evidence into tangible impacts on people's lives. Equally important is cultivating champions within Congress, leaders who value evidence, use it in deliberations, and encourage their peers to do the same. Over time, as evidence is used and institutionalized through budget hearings, committee reviews, and citizen reporting, appreciation for M&E will follow. Next slide. Turning this vision into practice requires embedding M&E at every stage of governance, like enacting a national evaluation law to institutionalize roles and set standards and mandate participation across sectors. Such law should strengthen not only M&E, but also congressional oversight and citizen engagement, addressing accountability gaps identified in public financial management reform agenda. Second, integrating M&E into planning and budgeting so that evaluation findings inform priorities, resource allocation, and performance reviews, as mentioned by the previous speakers. Third, establishing a national integrated monitoring and evaluation system, a unified platform that harmonizes indicators and data across agencies and levels of government and ensures interoperability and open access. And fourth, institutionalized participation by mainstreaming citizen-led monitoring, social audits, and partnership with academia and civil society. These mechanisms build trust, credibility, and shared ownership of results. By linking data and evidence decision-making, we can move from a project-based approach to a policy and system-based approach aligned with long-term development goals, including the SDGs. Next slide.
We need to finish up, Romulo.
Yeah, I'm about to finish. Thank you, Ed.
Good.
Next slide. Ultimately, the goal is not merely to build an evaluation system, but to build a culture of evaluation. A culture where evidence drives decision, where evaluation is used to learn, not to blame, where transparency builds trust, and where participation strengthens accountability. In such a culture, M&E becomes the bridge between government and citizens, enabling continuous learning, adaptation, and shared responsibility for results. Last slide, next. As I close, I invite us to reflect on what evaluation truly represents. At its best, evaluation is not about reports, indicators, or methodologies. It's about learning what works, correcting what does not, and ensuring that the public policies genuinely improve people's lives. The Philippine experience suggests that evaluation becomes transformative only when it extends beyond government offices into the broader governance space, where legislators demand evidence, civil society and the media amplify findings, academia strengthens analysis, and citizens use their voices reflected in outcomes. As a whole of society approach turns evaluation into a democratic practice, one that redistributes information and power, builds trust, and enforces accountability. As countries across the Asia-Pacific region confront complex challenges, from climate change to social inequality, evaluation will be indispensable to making wise, inclusive, and sustainable decisions. And thank you very much for this opportunity to share this reflection. Thanks.
Thank you. This is great. I mean, this is 3 great presentations. I learned a lot about what's going on in the Philippines, and I think it probably shares a lot of experiences with other countries and what they're trying to do in evaluation. So I didn't see any questions in the chat function, but if somebody has questions now, either raise your hand, you can do that, I guess, or start talking. Meanwhile, I have a few questions I can ask. First, before I do that, first I want to thank Marjorie Bautista from the Philippines, who's on our steering committee, and she was critical for organizing this webinar and getting the speakers either directly or indirectly. So thank you, Marjorie. This was a great way to start the year. One thing I was interested in, it looks, because of the presenters, it's sort of it works both ways, top down, sort of government. What about local communities, local cities and evaluation? Do they have efforts going on? Not only Manila, but even outside Manila. Are they relying at the government level and seeing what they have to do? And I open this up to each of the presenters. I'd like to hear more about our local communities, governments, whatever you call them, cities, communities, are they involved in evaluation or are they deferring to the federal level? Romulo, I'll start with you since I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I think again, we still have to develop really a practice of and culture of monitoring and evaluation, as pointed out also by my other speakers, especially at the local level. There's still very weak capacity to conduct monitoring and evaluation. And I think it can also be connected to the short political cycles, like the three-term period, that when you look at the outcome, it's very difficult to really look at those changes that would require long periods of time. But then, and so that even in the as a whole, there's still no culture of evaluation because I mean, for the government, it seems that as long as it's doing something. So that's what would like the government would always like to project the different as long as there's a problem and they're doing something about it, then that's already enough. And whether what they're doing are the right things to be done and whether they're doing it correctly or not, I don't think that there's that much discussion about it. As long as the government projects that it's doing something, then it's good enough. And I think that's one thing that we should really improve on, and that's why we're very much interested in this, really strengthening this system and practice of monitoring and evaluation to establish that culture.
Right. And just as aside, I'll say in the US, local governments have taken the initiative. They're not waiting at the federal level, not just this current period, but over the last 4 decades or so that I've been involved in evaluation. Particularly government at the federal level is slow for good reasons. I'm not going to criticize them for that. As a result, local communities say, we're going to come up with our own programs. We're going to come up with our own evaluation of those programs. We're not going to wait for the federal level. That takes time, cooperation, collaboration at the federal, an agreement about what is right. So that's why I asked that. Anybody else want to chime in on this discussion?
Yeah, Ed. So, yeah, with reference to my presentation, I highlighted some challenges in terms of really strengthening capacities of on evaluations, right? Policies, budget, and capacities, right? So, um, we have the capacity in terms of monitoring is strong, right? Even at the local levels, they have regional project monitoring committees, they have municipal development committee, monitoring committees, and even at the barangay development committees. What we want to emphasize is the need for strengthening strengthening capacities on evaluations. Even at the national level, there are still some agencies that need capacity building on evaluations. They need to establish their own evaluation units. They need to really the technical know-how in terms of designing, implementing, and even managing evaluations are needed. So yeah, so we have strong capacities on monitoring at the local level, but further strengthening on evaluation is needed.
Okay. A question came up. I'm going to switch. I mean, the problem here for me, as some of you know, we could spend the next hour or two talking about this. So, well, I know we don't have that time, but I do want to. Colin Staley ask for Ms. Ocampo, what can be done to facilitate a comprehensive smart power monitoring undertaking to deliver the data requirements for M&E? Or energy efficiency projects. Can the Department of Energy make this mandatory? It seems like it's a big block. So I don't know. Are you still here, Adele?
Yes, Ed, thank you for the question. Actually, before I respond to this one, I'd like to also comment on the previous one wherein
Sure.
I think a main problem is in there's a need to have a perspective shift. There's a thinking actually in the government that M&E is part of the main program proponents, and it should not be. It's a distinct function that should have an organization, a governance structure, and people dedicated to doing the function. So that's the big main um, uh, challenge in the DBM actually. So even the DBM, and there's also this the changes in priorities as administrations change. So as I mentioned a while ago, a decade and a half ago, the DBM has instituted a functional group within the DBM handling oversight M&E. But with the COVID, it was discontinued. So while we were at the forefront together with DepDev in issuing policies on M&E, like the M&E costing and so on and so forth, that has not been continued until now. So, but we are in. I am hopeful because our new acting secretary was with me during the times that we were building the M&E function in DBM. So and he was also with me in doing the zero-based budgeting studies together with Undersecretary Laura Pascua before. So I'm hopeful that we can move forward with this in his administration or what remains of his administration. So yeah. So in the question of Colleen, the 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 job actually can go from agency DOE led or oversight led from the DBM and the NEPF technical and steering committee to doing the monitoring and evaluation activities. It can be part of the agency-led evaluation agenda or the national evaluation agenda in terms of securing the needed uh, evaluation activities for energy projects. I hope I have satisfactorily responded to your question.
And is that mandatory? That's the question. Or can it be made mandatory?
Well, it should be done by the DOE at their it's a mandate for them to do that. So I'm not sure where the initiative should come from, but it should be from their end. But the oversight agencies can also help. So let's see what's in store in the implementation of the national evaluation agenda.
Oh, okay.
Ed, if there's time, I'd like to put in a question or two.
Sure. Good to see you.
Yeah, hi, Ed. Well, I enjoyed all presentations by Dev, BBM, and the House. My question is energy efficiency, which we focus on, is I think the most difficult. It's not like a generation project or another energy infrastructure project. Energy efficiency is just so spread across so many players, even down to grassroots and bottom of pyramid, that M&E is just so difficult. And then to complicate matters, we're entering into an era where government procurement rules are changing because of the new Government Procurement Act. We have the life cycle based procurement, which we hope would evolve into PPP, BOT, or third party investment type that would even stretch beyond multi-year contracting authority. So we're looking at longer implementation periods, life cycle cost based. We're hopeful that the procurement rules will even look at bidding on the basis of life cycle cost rather than initial capital outlay. So my question is, given this rapidly changing procurement environment and the complexity of doing this for energy efficiency, how would M&E change, in the eyes of DBM and DepDev, and even in policy making of Congress? How would M&E change? And the second point, I'm involved in many foreign assisted projects involving development partners and multilateral development banks, especially for energy efficiency across Asia Pacific. How would the Philippine government's M&E systems be harmonized with those of the multilateral lenders or grant donors? So how do you work normally in harmonizing the local M&E system with the development partners M&E system? So I stopped there and looking
Well,
forward.
hold on, Alex. Who would be best to address that of the three presenters?
I I think number one would be DBM because they would be on top of they're already anticipating. In fact, what I hope would be shortened would be the guidelines of the new Government Procurement Act. I'm not sure it's happening during this administration, but I'm hoping it will come out sooner. So DBM would be the first, and maybe additional views from DepDev would be helpful.
Okay.
I was
Good.
I was hoping
Go
Jess
ahead.
could respond to that because they're the ones in charge of ODA monitoring, right? So, but anyway, in response to your question, well, I think the IRR of the new GPRA is already on the way, if not already released. So let me look about through it. The NEPF Technical and Steering Committee also is on top of the evaluation function right now. We're working with our colleagues just there as supporting our senior officials for this committee. And while slowly we have uh, uh, made efforts to already identify or have the criteria for selecting the evaluation agenda for the next 3 years or so. And I would hope that we're looking at by sectoral representation for this agenda. So I'm looking forward to seeing energy efficiency be part of this agenda in the next years to come, if not this year, because
Yeah,
because
great.
the administration's priority is more on those lagging infrastructure projects and also the big budgeted programs in the social sector. I hope I'm correct in saying this, Sir Jess. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay. We are running out of time, but Jesse, are you here still?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
Would you
yeah.
like to respond?
Yeah, to respond to the questions raised, I will go back to our results framework of inputs, activities, output, leading to up to the attainment of the outcome. So actually, in terms of utilizing the inputs, delivering the activities, and attaining the outputs, that's a very challenging aspect of the results framework. There are lots of issues, no, in order to fully implement or to fully complete all the activities to attain our desired outputs. One of the issues that are usually encountered is procurement delays and procurement, failed bidding, non-responsive bids, and the likes. I think much of our existing or ongoing development projects are delayed because of procurement issues. Um, so we exert so much effort in terms of facilitating implementation issues to prevent projects for extending. Most of the projects are delayed and requesting some time extension because of procurement delay or because of implementation issues. So we usually coordinate with the development partners, our development partners such as World Bank, JICA, and to really address these procurement issues, especially if the projects are official development assisted or ODA funded. No, usually the procurement guidelines of the development task are being used in terms of procuring goods and services and requirements of programs or projects are supported by ODA. So we in terms of that we ensure that implementing agencies are well familiarized or well versed in terms of the procurement guidelines of the donor partners. Of
Okay.
course, in coordination with our GPPB or our local procurement body. Yeah.
Okay. I know people have other things to do for the remaining part of your day, so I think we'll come to an end. I'll just, before I hand it over to Nazir, I want to thank all the three speakers. I want to thank everybody else who's attending today's webinar, and I encourage you to come to our next webinar on February 11th. 11 a.m. Bangkok time, with Peter DuPont and his colleagues talking about data collection and program design using surveys, interviews, and AI to strengthen clean energy interventions. I'll hand it over to Nazir.
Thank you, Ed. I would also like to thank all the speakers for the very insightful presentation and discussion. We had a huge turnout today, so thanks to all the participants as well. I have put a link in the chat box to it would be great to hear your feedback and suggestions. And if you would like to be involved with EAP activities, feel free to follow us on our LinkedIn page where you will get to know about all the activities we organize and our YouTube channel that I have put there. You will find wealth of resources there, including previous webinars and presentations from different conferences. With that, I would like to call it a day. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days and evening. Hopefully, yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. See you next time.